Today's video is sponsored by our good friends at Famous Faces and Funnies, located in Melbourne, Florida. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And DocuBay94, located in Boca Raton, Florida. Check us out on comicsandgames.com. And Ian's Display Accessories, the best figure stands for iconic Kenner Star Wars, Hasbro G.I. Joe, as well as modern Black Series and G.I. Joe Classifieds. And lastly, EGS Grading Services, the Gen X place to get your comics graded. Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Codename New to Vero 2. I'm your presenter, Shabu RU, the Gen X source for all comic news. And in my last episode, I featured this month's comic pickups, including the Annual Gi Joe Yearbook. Now, before we dive into that, I wanted to talk about last year's yearbook. And again, I usually do this behind the camera, but you'll see why I'm doing this in front of the camera for this episode. So last year's episode was phenomenal. It was an excellent yearbook. I mean, we had two stories in it. The first one basically deals with the Arashikage clan. In the aftermath of the death of Snake Eyes, how the clan has reassessed and restructured their themselves in order to move forward. Now, also the introduction to new characters like Dawn Marino here, and also Granny, who is kind of like, I don't know, if you remember the Star Wars prequels, they had that Jedi librarian, that elderly lady. She kind of serves the same role in the Arashikage clan. She's all-knowing in all the history of the clan and helps direct the young members in their course of improving themselves. And also Jinx, who's now kind of like the de facto second in command. And lastly, Storm Shadow, who's now the Supreme Master. That's not his official title, but he's the hierarchy. So he's kind of using this to kind of bring everybody closer together, because Snake Eyes' death has an impact on G.I. Joe as well as the Arashikage clan. So they're kind of rebuilding, regathering themselves in order to move forward. Now, the premises of this issue is that there is a Revenge, which is a self-aware artificial intelligence, kind of like Skynet from the Terminator. And I have recapped this issue a year ago, so if you would like to see more details, go check that out. But Revenge has assessed the one thing that could jeopardize their global domination and enslaving humanity is actually the Arashikage clan. So there's two things going on in this first story. The old and new. Old in the Arashikage's old way, and now the new way with these new younger kids and, restructuring the Arashikage clan. And also the old in the old Japanese style of tradition, samurai, ninjutsu, honor, camaraderie. And then Revenge was a superior technology. So you see that play out in this episode. The other cool thing about this is that, let me go back to that page. The story takes place in the backdrop of the iconic water tower. I mean, in this water tower, if you're a G.I. Joe fan, you totally know how important it is to the mythos. It is Storm Shadow's lair. It's where Cobra Commander's son Billy first meets Jinx and begins his training. And also takes place the second silent issue number 85. There's a couple scenes that occurs with the water tower as the backdrop. So for it to come full circle and feature that, I thought was pretty cool. Again, this is for die-hard G.I. Joe fans. Like, they would understand what I'm talking about. The second story is a continuation of the G.I. Joe movie. Now, I talked about it in that same episode. There's people that like it, there's people that hate it. But to have a canon, remember, anything here is canon, of a continuation of that, because once the movie ended, the affiliation of Sunbow and Hasbro kind of stopped. They went to Deke. So there is rumors of an organization called the Coil, and of course Cobra Law, but nothing came to fruition because of that relationship had ended. So a lot of fans, whether you like the movie or don't like the movie, are kind of intrigued, and this video was actually really popular. A lot of people asked me questions, and even a couple months later, like, where is this coming? And that what brings me to here. Yeah, in 2020, this story never came. I don't know what happened, and because of this channel, I've got to interact with a lot of the artists and people that work in on A Real American Hero, and they're saying that it just never came to be. It's in the back burner somewhere. But in 2020, G.I. Joe had the main title, A Real American Hero. Then you had Paul Allure's excellent G.I. Joe series, which, again, if I don't even care if you're a G.I. Joe fan, it is one of the best written stories I have seen in a long time. And blending just a little, it's kind of like Cobra Kai, but not so much, where you're just barely, it just touches on the mythos that we knew and grew up with, but it takes it in a completely different way, and that's what I think makes it great. And credit Paul Allure for just doing an amazing job. I have those issues recapped in earlier episodes as well. And of course, lastly, Rob Liefeld's Snake Eyes story. Yikes. Which, if you've been following on the channel, is a complete disaster. Now, Rob Liefeld has gone on record saying that Snake Eyes is an inspiration for Deadpool, and he's a big fan. Well, Rob, if you're a big fan, what you're doing to Snake Eyes is terrible. So I hate to tell you, buddy, but I have one more issue to go, and thank God you just want to put this out to pasture and get rid of it. It's terrible. So now, the G.I. Joe yearbook for this year, it came out with much anticipation, as you saw my reaction from the last video. Now, what was intriguing is I saw Herb Trimpe's name attached to it, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, maybe this is a lost episode or lost issue or something, featuring Herb. To the guys that don't know, Herb Trimpe sadly passed away in 2015, and he is regarded as the G.I. Joe artist. Like issue number 1, so many iconic covers, Order of Battle. I mean, Herb Trimpe's artwork is just on par with Larry Hama, Kirk Bozigian, and Ron Rudat as far as G.I. Joe mythos is concerned. So, why I'm in front of the camera and not doing my regular recap? Well, that's because when you open up the page, it is a reprint of issue number 1, Lady Doomsday. And that's not a bad thing. That is not a bad thing at all. And but I kind of related to, I'm a car guy as well. So it's like going to a car show and expecting to see, the hottest McLaren or a Ferrari or Lamborghini, but out rolls out a 911 Turbo. Still good, or a M3. So still it's a wonderful piece of machinery, excellent, fun to drive, but at the same time, it wasn't that, majestic P1 McLaren or something like that. But still, it's good. And if you watch my other episodes, IDW has been doing a lot of reprints. I don't know if this was planned in preparing for the Snake Eyes movie, which got delayed, but they've kind of pushed forward as if. So we started off with a reprint called The Complete Silent, which I featured and talked about a few episodes ago, with G.I. Joe issue number 21 and 21.5. And I think last week I talked about the reprint of issue number 26 and 27. These are all important stories as far as the history of Snake Eyes is concerned. And again, the best part about these is the paper. And IDW gave this a 5-star treatment. I mean, once you feel it and hold it in your hand, you could see how much love and attention is given to it. The quality of paper is amazing. And I, for one, am glad. I don't care how many reprints there are. For me, they're all golden and worthwhile to get. Now, what's interesting about this yearbook is that after Lady Doomsday commences and finishes, it gives you some extra stuff. So it goes through the whole G.I. Joe, summarizes the whole G.I. Joe mythos as far as the comic run is concerned, reprinting some very key moments. Like here we have Snake Eyes hooked up to the brainwave scanner, the fight with Dr. Venom, October Guard. I mean, since G.I. Joe has suddenly gained some popularity as far as modern comics people is concerned, this is a great issue to pick up those issues I mentioned. And this one, just because it basically summarizes everything in a nutshell. And as for fans, it's definitely worth adding to your collection. We got the map of the pit. And what's also interesting is that they kind of condensed the order of battles. There was 4 issues called the Order of Battles, where, basically it's a reprint of the file card along with Herb Trimpe's artwork. So that's what makes this back part kind of interesting, is that you not only get issue number 1, but the Order of Battle as well. And the best thing is that where the Order of Battle, one issue focused on the Joes and another issue focusing on Cobra, this one kind of combines both. So again, just to seeing this iconic artwork on this high gloss paper is definitely worth picking up and adding. And also it has a little bit of summary of G.I. Joe on TV. These are nothing new to longtime fans. I mean, but still to have everything in this package is definitely worthwhile to pick up. And now this is at your local, currently at your local comic shop. So make sure you look for this, pick it up. It's definitely worth getting. And I like how, the cover is paying homage to the first yearbook. And then you have a reprint of the cover inside. So again, it's not a big disappointment. It's actually definitely something I enjoy and I'm glad I have in my collection. Now, the reason why there's no new story, and I had to ask myself this because I was kind of surprised there was nothing new, because that's what G.I. Joe things are happening. Now, that's because Larry Hama has returned back to Marvel. He's now writing the Iron Fist book. So I think I'm so happy for Larry. And if you're a G.I. Joe fan, and you're a comic fan in general, you cannot write what's currently going on and where comics has evolved without including Larry Hama. I mean, modern comic people put Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, all these people, but I'm sorry, as great as they are, Larry Hama is the most important person. If it wasn't for Larry Hama and G.I. Joe, the comics, a lot of this subculture would not be. It's because of G.I. Joe. And for a lot of these 80 kids, G.I. Joe was like the gateway drug into comics. And I think that's why it's kind of really cool and important that Larry Hama has returned to Marvel writing the Iron Fist series. And we all know that retirement is around the corner for Larry. So for him to do this, have this opportunity, I'm very happy for him. And I will cover the Iron Fist probably in another episode down the road, and we'll recap those issues. I think I have issue 1 and 2, so we'll look into those a little bit later down the road. And with that said, I wanted to pause here and talk about the episode I made about G.I. Joe comics increasing in value. And I forgot to add something because something really important happened last week, and that is Amazon announced that they're working on a Lady Jaye series. So, since that announcement, I've noticed that issue number, 32 has skyrocketed. With a high-selling loose copy like this, not graded, for $50. Now, I'm not saying that this is worth $50, but I am saying that because of the Amazon Lady Jaye things, that this has increased slightly in value. So if you look for this in your collection, and if you do, set it aside and consider getting it graded from EGS Grading Services, our new sponsor, and I think the best grading service for us Gen Xers. Now, what's important about this issue is not just the introduction of Lady Jaye, but Ripcord is also makes his debut on this episode. And also, this is the one where Airborne and Spirit are going to, I guess, assist Snake Eyes in his cabin when Firefly and Destro attack the cabin. So that's another and also there's a death of a bear, which is pretty sad and tragic. But again, you have to read the episode. It's funny because I've been listening to these modern comics and they're looked at the cover and they're like, what the hell is this? It's not very artistically pleasing, but again, they're not hardcore G.I. Joe fans. So I'm advising our community to keep a lookout and pick up this issue just to have for yourself. And if you do have, consider getting it graded. And I'm going to be working on that. I'm still working on that episode about EGS where I'm having Tony, the president, is going to come and answer some questions for us. But again, when I'm talking about getting things graded and encased, I'm talking about taking a comic, sending it, and having it come back looking like this. Now, the reason why I like EGS is because when I get mine, I'll be able to show it better. But the labels are nice and colorful. This CGC is pretty bland. And even though it's the popular #1, but I think that, like, you know, it's too dangerous putting one company as the standard for entire industry when we've known in modern history how companies have risen and fall. Case in point, Sears or Toys R Us, for example. So it's important to have a group of companies setting a standard versus just one. And also because this is a corporation and EGS is like a family-owned small American business, and I want my dollars to go helping the American business. Now I'm going to wrap up by showcasing another few issues that I think are... I highlighted issue number 148. And remember, G.I. Joe started losing steam. This is also 146. So because these issues are very scarce, it's kind of cool, like if you find them, to pick them up and you know, get these before these hipsters, modern comic guys get them, because I rather us fans, get these issues versus these modern comic. They just see this as a dollar sign, and I hate that. This means something, you know. This is your childhood. This is your memories. This is what helped forge you to be the adult that you are today. So it's important for you to check these out and pick them up and add to your collection. Well, that summarizes this episode. I know it's short and brief, but if you're looking to recap this issue, I highly recommend watching HCC 788, Forum BX257, and Timmer from Half the Battle. Our friends over there, they recap the Marvel run, and I think they're very vital. And if you're new and into G.I. Joe, welcome. G.I. Joe is just one of the best franchises. I think it's #2 behind Star Wars as far as importance. So I'm happy but kind of cautious that now finally G.I. Joe is remembered again. It's coming back to life. But now's the time to act before it's too late. Anyway, this is Shabu Are You signing off.